I'd like indeed to share a couple of thoughts today about the difficult dynamics of collective action and collective collective awareness on the web. And those thoughts and insights are actually based on our experience in the open source movement while launching a new platform called Imagination for People. That is being launched from Canada and from France. It's actually a French-Canadian initiative with the former chairman of Wikipedia as a strong support in the team. And I'd like to structure some thoughts about 6 imperatives for collective awareness and action. I'll talk about the internet in the many-to-many paradigm. I'll talk about the synchronous internet or the simultaneous internet, the role of curators, and the central role of the user experience revolution. Some words about social currencies and reputational currencies, and I'll probably end up with some lines about a model, a public-private people partnership model that we use as a mashup configuration that help establish co-creation and co-production capabilities. So first of all, a few words about the internet in the many-to-many paradigm. We think that we need to consider platforms for collective action as literally as marketplaces that combine seekers and solvers, problem seekers and problem solvers, and as a matter of fact, that combine many seekers and many solvers. And that means that we are currently migrating from a conventional one-to-one configuration that has been historically the bilateral dynamics of placing orders essentially in the context of innovation. We are migrating from a one-to-one bilateral configuration model to a one-to-many that is being witnessed in the conventional crowdsourcing platforms, and that very soon we will actually enter the field of what can be called many-to-many configurations. And in a few words, one-to-one configuration is quite simple. It's been like this for decades or even centuries. It's essentially in a company, a manager telling an engineer to find a solution to a problem. Or it could be a university professor asking a PhD student to work in a given direction. In a one-to-many configuration, this is where traditional, it's already becoming traditional or conventional, traditional crowdsourcing platforms are built. Then you have, in traditional crowdsourcing solutions, what you have is essentially a company or an organization or a public entity saying, I've got a problem. So you got Procter & Gamble or Shell or Johnson & Johnson saying, I actually have a problem. Is there anybody out there that can help me? And as a matter of fact, oddly enough, at the end of the process, what we have is a situation in which one contributor finds a solution that's acceptable by the seeker. So it's a one-to-many configuration that ends up into a one-to-one configuration, which is kind of interesting. We think that in a many-to-many dynamics, it's very different. What we have is a group of people that is collectively co-designing the need, and another group of people that is together collectively trying to find a solution. So I don't know if you've heard about a platform called OpenIDEO. It's probably one of the very few platforms that go into the direction of the many-to-many configuration, in which people actually co-edit and co-invent the need. As a matter of fact, there's another example which is probably more famous, which is the open data movement, in which there is simply no specification, no predefined invitation to tender, no predefined proposal. There's simply the liberation of a data set or multiple data sets, and communities actually try to invent the need that can be served by these data sets. Another dimension is the notion of the synchronous internet. We actually think that there is a need for a much more synchronous internet with real-time gatherings online in a multi-user context. A little bit like a living lab, the way the living labs operate in a physical world. Well, the synchronous internet is actually the equivalent of an e-living lab in which you have access to moments in time in which there are potential gatherings online combining multiple users that can actually co-create things and co-work in the same space and time. And we actually strongly believe in the hybrid nature of co-creation, in a sense that it would be even more powerful if we could think in terms of mixing online and offline events. And the interesting thing is that it is not how the internet works today. The internet works today in a very sequential mode. We've got the experience of Wikipedia that we have extensively analyzed, in which what you have is, it gives the impression of a collective momentum, but it is actually a simple sequence of individual contributions. So somebody edits a sentence or text, and 48 hours later, somebody else is correcting it. So what you have is actually a sequence of actions, but not a synchronous, simultaneous gathering of experiences. As a matter of fact, Wikipedia is understanding it. They have launched what they call the Wiki Sprint events. I don't know if you've heard of it. But it's basically, they put together 100 people in a room, they connect those 100 people with 200 or 300 people online, and they have 48 hours or 72 hours to write a book. Not a chapter, not a section, but an entire book. So it's really a new way of considering co-production and co-creation, really. Another aspect of co-creation and co-production is the need for curators. There's a myth, I think, that needs to be pinpointed, which is the fact that crowdsourcing is not based on self-organization. It's not a magical sort of collective, do-it-yourself type of dynamic. And as a matter of fact, this morning somebody said open platforms should be partially shaped, and we think actually that indeed they should be partially shaped. Crowdsourcing needs to be, first of all, stimulated, and actually in some cases financially stimulated. If you look at incentives and the incentives of this world, it is financially stimulated, obviously. But even in the open data movement, there's not one single city in the world that has started an open data initiative without a financial package, usually in the average of $50,000. So it has to be stimulated either financially or with some reputational tools. It has to be curated. Yeah. It needs to be curated, and it needs to be accompanied and orchestrated. And as a matter of fact, we think that the methodologies that will help accompany the crowdsourcing techniques should become a commons. And I'll say a last word about this notion of 4 Ps of public, private, people partnerships. We actually think that we should think in terms of integrating the citizens and the communities of practices and the communities of citizens into public and private partnerships, if only because without the intervention of the public sector and the private sector, the collective creativity of citizens will not benefit from the traction and the transformational capabilities of private companies and public entities. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. So we invite now Dirk Elbing.